Alrighty. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Philly Made podcast. This is where we talk to businesses and professionals from Philadelphia to learn more about their business journeys. I'm your host, Shannon, Penji's partnership coordinator, and I'm joined here today with a very special guest, Dave Polykoff, the CEO and founder of their personal brand blueprint. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Shannon, thank you for having me. And I think this is pretty timely right now. I don't know when this is coming out, but I have to give a big go birds because
Oh my
as of
God.
now, yes,
Don't jinx it. Everyone,
I'm
every time
not
we
jinxing
say
anything.
something, people are like, "Don't jinx it." What are you gonna?
I have confidence. That's all I'll say.
I actually wore on our live event the other day an Eagles shirt, and it worked because the guy was an Eagles fan, but he's from New Jersey, and I was unaware of whether I would start a fight on the podcast
Well, if
as
he's a Giants fan, then there's a lot we have to talk about then.
yeah, I'm also from New Jersey, but New Jersey teams are not good. Like,
You
really
don't you
no.
don't claim New Jersey teams, yeah, yeah, it's okay.
Teams. I do enjoy New Jersey, whether how anyone feels about that. I know a lot of people don't like it, but the
Mm,
sports teams are not up to snuff.
yeah, no comment, no comment.
This is about you though, not the birds. Can you please tell us a little bit about yourself? Introduce yourself maybe differently than I would, and say anything about your professional journey that you think would be important for people to know.
Sure. So, name's Dave Polykoff. I grew up in the suburbs of Philly in Havertown. So, I'm a local guy, a Delconian, as we say. And yeah, went to school in Middle PA, Kutztown University. Didn't really know what I was going to do when I went to college, but then I took a marketing class and fell in love with just marketing and branding and everything. Junior year of college, got an internship at a small little startup that eventually turned into a really big startup. I
Mhm.
was employee number 3, went to 103 employees over the next couple of years. And
Wow.
that startup was brand.com. So during that time, I learned just so much about digital marketing and branding and what it meant to control your online presence. Then went on to another startup called News Launcher, and that was in working with brands to help them get sponsored content onto really big news websites like the Associated Press and Business Insider and the New York Times. So went to New York and shook hands with all these execs and such, and then eventually just caught the entrepreneurial bug.
As
Finally
you do.
felt I was ready to start my own thing, and so I started a content agency using everything I've learned throughout my years in branding and content and such, and then grew that, took on some partners, and then that evolved into a few different things. Ultimately, it's now called ZenPost, which is a done for you content agency. We help thought leaders translate their thought leadership into content that sells for them. And then, secondly, really saw a passion and kind of a market within personal branding. 2020 happened, and a lot of people either got fired or walked away from big corporate jobs and started to say, you know what? I have all this experience. Why not just do my own Me LLC? Started with personal branding. And so I launched the personal brand blueprint, which is now an offer that I provide for agencies, agency owners, coaches, consultants to help them launch and grow their personal brands.
That is beautiful, and that is a crazy track record. So how are you juggling all of these things?
Well, I hope.
It's crazy to look at someone's LinkedIn page and all of like most of their record is a certain date to present, and it still says present, and it's not a
Yeah.
mistake.
Yeah.
What how are you able to juggle all these things and be able to, know that you're effectively leading these different.
Yeah, it's a great question. And another kind of boutique agency I didn't mention was a web design agency that I run as well, Poly Websites. So the thing is, I mean, throughout my experience at brand.com and News Launcher, I was utilizing all of these skills: web design, marketing, copywriting, content creation. And I've always been very technically savvy, always looking into new systems, platforms to use to help me streamline, scale content. I'm very much an organized person. I always love to find ways to like hack a workflow that makes things as easy as possible. And then now with kind of the explosion of AI, a lot of that stuff's making it even easier for me to just decrease the time it takes for me to do certain steps.
Mhm.
So the juggling act is less difficult when all of the things I'm focused on are really under the umbrella of just digital marketing. It's just kind of segmented into different buckets. You know, on one hand, it's online content creation and the workflows around that. The other bucket is web design and development, and those two things work hand in hand. And then right in the middle of that, of content creation and web development, is my personal brand blueprint, which kind of combines those two worlds where we help craft your brand, we help craft your content strategy, and then we help put that into a personal brand funnel, which is a lot of landing pages, web design stuff. So all the worlds work together. So it's not like, you know, I'm not Elon Musk where it's like I have a electric car company on one hand and then I'm trying to go to Mars on the other, you know what I mean? So everything just kind of works in conjunction and it's much easier to manage it that way.
That makes a lot of sense. It's also probably really helpful for you to have had the agency growth experience, like, early on in your life to be able to because I understand working for an agency and you're always aware of many hats, especially earlier on. But so you must have gotten experience in so many different categories during that. I think that's such a great way of learning is kind of like being thrown into it. It's like
Trial by fire.
pretty horrible.
I was I mean, I came out of college and I graduated on a Friday, started working at this startup that Monday full time, and again, during the I had the internship my junior year, but I still went back my senior year. They wanted me to
Mhm.
stay, and I was like, "I gotta get the diploma for mom." So I went back for my senior year, graduated, then started but during that time, again, I was employee number 3. We started to grow to, like, 50 employees, a sales floor, all this stuff throughout my senior year. So by the time we graduated, I'm walking into, like, a pretty mature somewhat mature company,
Mhm.
and we started to take on capital and hire bigger name, C-suite, hires, like a COO who was from Microsoft, and I'm 21 at the time, and I'm part of
That's
these
incredible.
conversations
Mhm.
about, like, "Let's create a pitch deck so we can go raise money," and, like, "We need to hire this VP of sales. What should the job description be?" And all these big questions and stuff, and luckily, the founder of the company, this was the first time he was really building out a company of this size too, so we were kinda doing it together, but it was very trial by fire where you're like, "We're growing quickly, we better figure this out," and as a young kid, just learned so much on the fly, and, you know, as an entrepreneur, you just naturally have, like, an inkling for certain things and a curiosity for things, so you just sometimes just figure it out or go try to learn it for some YouTube video or something.
Yeah, no, it's just it's very cool to get that experience so early on, and it must have been helpful in your journey to also open and create all these other different business ventures in which are still successful. So that's like incredible. You don't see that linear path very often, I guess, if that makes sense.
It's definitely, you know, like I say, I went to school 4 years, majored in marketing with a concentration in advertising, but the most that I learned about marketing, advertising, digital marketing was just by doing, by, like, having
Mhm.
that internship, by being a part of that business, so there's only so much you can read in a book or learn from a professor, sometimes you just have to, like, experience it yourself to understand it.
I think I should start tallying the amount of people that I talk to that don't have a typical marketing path because I feel like I more often hear that someone didn't go to college or they majored in something so wildly different from marketing or whatever it may be and then ended up owning an agency like like down the line. Sometimes it's recent, sometimes it's long and it's very interesting to see it. So you're one of the first actually that had a very linear path I've spoken to, which is
Well, a lot
it's
of
just very cool.
A lot of times, I think digital marketing changes so rapidly. Social media started to become a thing, and then content creation and sponsored content and AI and all that. There's like 5-year periods of just rapidly changing digital marketing tools and strategies that if you go to college, school for
They're
to learn
behind.
about how to do it, it's already different by the time you get out, which is like,
Mhm.
what happened to me.
Yeah, exactly. I think that because of the rapidly changing landscape, it's only effective if you're learning while you're going into it because
Right.
you can't it's not really something that you can learn, through a textbook. I feel like I have learned, like I've gotten certificates on HubSpot, and done all these things, but I've learned more in this podcast than I have through things like that, because they're very cookie cutter, and so many people do things differently. A lot of people do things the same and explain them differently, but, it's very, I don't know, it's very interesting to hear the different perspectives of people in marketing roles because, they're so wildly different. Everyone is so different in the marketing world.
Everyone
There's
has
so
these
many
solution,
different
right?
dynamics. It feels like a disease. There's so many different people, but everyone has marketing skills, and it's very, very cool. So, tell us a little bit about the personal brand blueprint, and the podcast would be something that I'd really like to know because I don't get to talk to a lot of people that also have a podcast, so it's, like, interesting.
Yeah, there's definitely some trauma bonding that can go with. Sure. Yeah, we'll get to that then. So yeah, the personal brand blueprint. I mean, one of the biggest problems we see with coaches, consultants, agency owners is they have something very special of a unique method that they apply to their clients that gets great results. And usually that unique method was developed over years of learning and failing and taking the loss, learning from it and applying a method to it that then worked for them, and then they create ways for them to teach that method to other people, which is their business. And so there's this really great story that's attached to a really great unique method, but no one ever knows about that. So the core of the personal brand blueprint is to first dig up what that is. What is that personal brand origin story that allowed you to create this unique method? So we help you brand that story, help you brand that method. And then we apply that to a sales funnel. So one of the other big problems is people going guest podcasts. They go out on social media and they start saying, here's what I do. Here's why you should buy from me. But there's never a next action for someone to take. There's never
Mhm,
something that people can actually come into your universe, your web. So we help them create that. What is a lead magnet? Something that people can download in exchange for an email that then gets into your email system. Um, and then lastly is we need to attract qualified attention to that sales funnel. And that's through long form video content. So guest podcasting like this, also creating your own YouTube channel, taking common objections and FAQs that your clients or your potential clients have, translating that into content for you. And now people are getting kind of what we like to say, like pre-suaded and pre-sold to your offer. They already understand what you do, why you do
mhm.
it, because of the story and all that. And then they're being driven to your landing, your sales funnel. So those three elements, the brand, the funnel, the traffic, are what I help coaches, consultants, and agency owners build out. And then I work with them just to remain consistent with it. And again, it's something that kind of leads right into ZenPost, my done for you agency, where we handle all of that. We do the done for you content.
So is your ideal client then, someone that you believe has a unique brand and a unique style? Because I'm sure that there are people that you run into maybe that you don't think that you can do much for because they're not really presenting themselves in a way that would be unique or something to showcase. I know that might sound harsh.
I mean, all right, so I'll pick that apart a little bit. So there is some truth to some qualifications.
Mhm,
Certainly, I work with people who found product market fit. For audience member who doesn't understand that, it's basically that you've been able to sell your offer to your ideal client consistently. What you have to offer, people want to buy, and you've been able to actually sell it.
mhm,
So that just validates that you have something that's working. And that's kind of just the initial criteria, because I'm not going to help you rebuild your offer, rebuild your service, and all that kind of stuff. You already have to have that.
Yeah.
But the real kind of like magic is, all right, you've created this offer that people want. What is the what are the unique ways that you are approaching that offer that's your one of one unique method that is your differentiator? And typically we don't really even know what that is until people kind of come in and dissect what we do
Mhm.
and are able from an outside perspective go, okay, this is your angle. This is why people use you. This is a differentiator between you and your competition. And then also you've created this offer, as I mentioned before. What's the credibility behind you being able to offer this service? Why you? And that's a lot of kind of like therapeutic reflection on your story to go, well, I went through all these jobs where I learned all these things and then I got fired and I did my own thing and I struggled for a while. And there's this kind of origin hero story that a lot of people, we all have. It might not be as epic as like an Iron Man movie, but like it is a hero story. That is a one of one story. So we craft that for you. So to answer your question, you do need to have a proven offer, but not everyone's going to have some incredibly unique thing about their offer from the competition, but there always is something there that differentiates them, and that's the personal side of personal branding.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense, and it's you still have a criteria, to be able to determine what those people are. I was I guess more I think that a lot of people like to work with a very specific type of person for these needs. So I was just curious if it was something that I don't know, you felt like they needed a more unique some je ne sais quoi, so to speak, about them that makes you want to have a further business relationship.
Yeah, there's nothing, they don't need to. I'm not out there at the local talent show and being like that one's gonna be a star, like, stick with
Like
me,
the
kid. I'm gonna
service,
make you a
like
star. Yeah,
Barnum
no,
Bailey
yeah.
kind of style.
That's the thing is,
Mhm.
like I said, everyone has their unique way of approaching a service. They have their core values and beliefs, that they take into their service that is unique to them. And that's just a truism across everyone. And it's really just about identifying that. But there's nothing, when we talk about personal branding, it doesn't need to be like, you don't need to be like an influencer or someone that you typically see on like TikTok, RIP, maybe TikTok. So
Nope.
you don't need to have
5 hours back.
well, okay. Um, so, yeah, so yeah, there's no je ne sais quoi. And a lot of times the thing that people think are like is the most boring thing about them is usually the thing that is the reason that people wanna use them as their coach or consultant.
Do you have a favorite story that you've heard?
Um,
Or, like, a
one
memorable one, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, one that I won't use any names here, but one that comes to mind is there's a agency that I'm working with, the business owner, and he was fired from multiple agencies that he worked at because he would call BS on their internal practices. They
Mm.
would, the firms that he worked for, agencies that he worked for, they would kind of fib the numbers and the data to make them look better to clients. And he wasn't having that. And he would call out internal staff and, he would change the numbers back and all this stuff. So he would continue to lose jobs because of that. But he identified like agencies are incentivized to look great to maintain clients. Eventually, he had the skill set, but he had the desire to create an agency that just had internal ethics and
Mhm.
transparency and honesty. And so he went off and created his agency that is just driven by honesty and ethics and transparency and data. And that's kind of the core of his brand now is everything we do is with those things in mind. And it's just such a great backstory of like, yeah, I got fired from all these places because I like tooth and nail will always fight for like the truth in data. So I just thought that was a more recent one that I thought was great.
I love that, and I have a strange feeling that I have interviewed this person before
Hollywood.
because it sounds very similar to something that I've heard before. So I wonder if they're the same person, but I really admire stories like that as well because I there are a lot of things that I think are in the agency world that are taboo to speak about. I think that it's getting better. But I think that there's a lot of things that because it's an environment that isn't up to the standard of like a corporation, it there's a lot of things put on the wayside, especially when something's growing, or it's early on. And agencies are notably secretive about the things that they, do. Not only if they're doing something bad, but just in general because they don't want to share with other agencies what they're doing because they're afraid they're going to copy them, whatever it may be. And I love hearing stories like that or perspectives from people in agencies where um, they're very forward thinking in certain practices that they have with either their clients or with transparency or even with their staff of how they like effectively communicate with them, make sure that they're like okay not only with their work but also like their mental and it's so nice to hear because I think I hear more and more of it the more that I have people on the podcast. And I think a general worry that I had was that this was the norm, and I think it's becoming not the norm, so it's really good. Um,
Really.
We're in a trust crisis right now, as they say. So anyone who's leading with ethics and honesty, I think, is going to win moving forward from a pure heart of ethics and honesty, and not just putting that as something on their website, but not actually living through it.
yeah, I definitely think that's something that has also come up with I think, like trust as well. So actually what's your opinion on that, I guess? Everyone has an opinion on AI. So well, one, was wondering how you think that it would kind of change the creative world, especially for content creation for the future. But then on the other side of the coin, do you think that do you have any ethical problems with AI or the way that people are utilizing it at this moment?
So a few things there. I think the core idea of AI is to help you get from 0 to 1 much faster. One of the big problems with content creation, if you're not gonna utilize a professional to help you with it, is if you're not naturally a content creator, the gap between an empty white page and a blinking cursor and your first draft can be can take you weeks to get a first draft.
Mhm.
And so AI, what's the value right now is it's helping you get from a blinking cursor to a first draft in minutes, versus you racking your brain about how do I start this? What's a good hook? What's the outline of what I should be saying? The ethical part of it is that's where AI should end, is getting you to the concept, and then you need to take it over, and it needs to be in your language and your words. There are some things in terms of like there's some interesting things going on right now where um, there's tools like Notebook LM, which is an AI tool by Google where you can feed the workspace a bunch of information about yourself and your tone of voice and your brand voice and all that kind of stuff. And then you can say, create content that sounds like me, essentially. And so that's a gray area where it's like, these are my quotes. This is my language. This is what I think. And it's in a format that I would use and et cetera, et cetera. It's just, I didn't I didn't do everything 0 to 10. You know, it's like someone ghostwriting your biography, right?
Mhm.
It's like, this was my life. It's just I didn't write the biography myself.
Yeah.
So that's like a gray area, but I still think at all times you still need to go through, spot check, tweak language. AI is not perfect and it just needs to have that human touch to it. But there should never be a create this piece of content,
I see.
copy, paste, publish.
No, I definitely agree. I actually something that I didn't even recognize at the beginning because I don't do anything like content writing, is the idea that it really can help with writer's block. I I never really thought about that, but I think that's a wonderful thing because that's something that I think someone who's doing something that's repetitive, that involves writing, is very difficult, however creative they are as a person. I think that hits a lot of people, and to be able to use that as a tool to help them, I definitely view it as a tool, and I don't think that it should be considered anything else. Um, I don't think it should be considered an employee. I don't think it should be, so and anything beyond that because I do think it can elevate your work, in a way that it can assist you. It can also do things much quicker, that are tedious, and I do really like that. I think there are so many ethical concerns beyond the agency world with AI that I will not get into, but I do think that, well, how do you feel about, what's the word I'm looking for? There's a lot of debate, I think, right now about AI, like, having to say that you use it in your work. Do you think that what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, there's actually, Grammarly, which is, for those who don't know, is like this Chrome extension that helps you with your grammar as you're typing things. It spots spelling and grammar mistakes and all that stuff. But they're evolving with the whole AI generation. And I recently saw that they launched this feature where it tracks your activity within a document and it will know if you've copied AI content from an AI source and put it into your content. And then it gives this kind of like AI content validation check mark or something like that. And so it basically knows if you've used AI content when
Mhm.
creating that piece. And then it's a way to kind of say, I didn't use any AI in this content, Grammarly confirmed or whatever, or otherwise. So it's interesting to see some of these tools that are actually starting to come out to help with that question. Um, it's I'll give a quick backstory as well with this. Kind of ties into when I was at News Launcher, our business model was we would help brands get sponsored content onto large publications. And sponsored content basically means instead of an author organically picking up a story, writing about it, and publishing it on their own accord, a brand is paying an author at that publication to write about their a story about them or something.
Mhm.
They're agreeing on the article, and then it's being published onto the website. And this was a very new. I mean, publications were going out of business, so they
Yeah.
needed money, and
Yeah.
so very new idea.
Mhm.
And um, and there wasn't a lot of law behind it. Like, do you need to mark this as sponsored? And as we were kind of building this company, we were like helping with best practices, like, yes, it needs to be marked as sponsored, yada, yada. Like, what are the ethics behind it? So it's interesting to now be in this universe of like, okay, what needs to be labeled for AI content? Because I went through all of that back in the news launcher days. But again, I just think it's such a gray area in the sense of like what needs to be discussed. If it is your thoughts, if you're feeding AI, here are my thoughts, just format it in a better way. I don't think that
Yeah.
people need to know that AI should do that.
Mhm.
But if you're saying, write me a post or a blog or a newsletter or a blog post, and it's creating everything, even pulling thoughts and opinions from other people, and you're
Yep.
not injecting anything into it, then that's not a source that you create. It's not a piece that you've created. and that needs to be credited to someone else. Same thing with like, autobiography or whatever. If someone else is writing it, you should note within the book or the book cover written by, someone else. Because your it's your life, but you didn't specifically write it.
Yeah, I think about it in a similar way of like an essay that I would have written in college of before AI. Unfortunately,
That was
that sounded like it would be way easier now, but I don't know. Writing is fun, so I don't really whatever. But I think about it as an essay of like you pull all this information from different articles, you have to say where it's from. You don't just have that knowledge naturally. Um and I think that AI, when you incorporate it, that's how it should be. If you're like showcasing, if you get anything from AI that is not your words or it's um, not inspired by your words, for lack thereof, you should be able to say where those come from. Even when you use ChatGPT, it cites where it's getting things from when you ask it.
well, I mean, we don't get on this topic for too long, but it's an interesting thing because what's the difference between going and Googling a source? I mean, if you're writing like a
Uh-huh.
social post, right? No one's citing their sources in a social post, but you will go Google something manually and research it and go, okay, this is a good quote or whatever, and put it
Mhm.
into your document. Basically, what AI is doing is just removing that
That's
step for you and going, I did the research for you. Use this. So it's a tough conversation because it's just doing the hard work for you. Is that enough to then say I need to tell people that I had AI find this quote for me?
Yeah, exactly. It's a very strange area, and as AI advances, I think it will be more difficult to navigate in that way. I think that there will be a point where we get to the general assumption that everyone is utilizing it. Um and I don't think that the worry of, is this AI generated or whatever will be at the forefront of everyone's minds because I think it'll just be everywhere. And that is concerning or not, but I think
If
that
we're
it'll
living in Elon's world, we're going to have
Yep.
microchips in our head,
Mhm.
and we're all going to be talking through digital mind text messages anyway. So,
My dad believes in the microchip thing. He's been telling me this for like 5
oh,
years.
he's signed up already.
Like, and I no, like I don't even know. He just does believe like he's like we're gonna have microchips in our brain. Like I'm gonna live longer. He's been saying this to me for a long time. It's very scary.
It's a point. The I had something to say around the AI part. Maybe it'll come to me. But yeah, just I think the I think so that the big point that I wanted to make was, and not trying to point people back to my service, but that's why storytelling and personal branding is so important because I think a lot of people think personal branding is just let me push a bunch of facts at people and then they'll trust me because I know facts and then they'll come buy my service.
Everyone can
But
know that.
really, it's storytelling and describing what makes you unique. If AI is presenting everyone with the same data and we're all just copying and pasting AI, there is no uniqueness. And so telling our own personal journeys, our own stories, that you can't fabricate. I mean, you can fabricate it, but there's really we know about who you are specifically, what you went through, what makes you unique, how you approach your services differently. That's why people will want to use you, use your service. So that's a differentiator from you, who's just a competitor who's maybe just asking ChatGPT to come up with 15 facts about whatever and just copying and pasting that into a post.
Yeah, exactly. I think that that is a testament to like human nature is the idea that having done this podcast, I've heard many people say the same thing in different ways. And those things resonate with a certain group of people, regardless of if they're the same way someone else is doing it. It's the way in which you present yourself or the way in which you say the way you're doing something. And I think that that really does stand out. I do agree that a personal brand is really important to focus on and not just the skills in which you provide because a lot of people do those things, especially with agencies. There's tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. Um, and there is going to be someone out there that might have the exact same strategy as you too, but it's the way in which you present it that matters, because
Right.
that's what's going to resonate with your audience. Is if everyone puts it at the same way, or has the same, like, you can have the same strategy as someone but present it differently, and therefore someone will choose you over someone else. And I think that's really important.
Well, I'm gonna clip what you just said out of this podcast and use it as a testimonial to the game. The way you just described it is exactly
You
my
can.
mission statement.
You can edit this however you want, as long as you don't
Okay.
slander us in the media.
No, no, never will. No.
But, okay, so on the topic of AI, we're running, out of time a little bit, but I don't really care. This is
I got time.
good conversation. But, so AI, some people will view it as a trend. Some people think it's just going to advance into something absurd. What other trends do you think, or do you anticipate being in content creation in the future, or, marketing in general?
Right now, I'm hitching my wagon to long form video content. Over the last 10 years, even short form social content was king. People, TikTok, Reels, YouTube got into it. Even LinkedIn is dabbling with it now, or actually is fully investing into it. There's a whole tab on LinkedIn just for short form video content. And that's been great to capture attention. And then people get attention and then they try pushing a sale down a lead's throat through like email campaigns and text messages and things like that. And that that has led to people getting kind of turned off by a whole sales process of just being like, I actually just posted something on LinkedIn today about this where I get constant emails that have the same subject lines every single time. And I know it's a sales
I
email because it's
actually just
always,
saw that.
oh, you saw, okay, yeah. It's always Dave thoughts and like, or whatever. It's the same subject line every single time. And I'm like, I'm not interested in your service through a cold email. Maybe it's right time, right place, diamond in the rough type of thing. You can get some people, but really what people want now is a connection to who this person is, why they are the person that should be providing this service, their story behind it, and what makes them unique versus, again, we talk about there's 1,000 coaches or consultants or agencies out there that all do the same thing. It's so easy to start your own coaching or consultant, a business these days. Why you versus the coach or consultant next door? And the best way to do that is to have what they call time on content, which means how long is someone consuming the content that you're creating? And through these, there's a famous research study that was done by Google where it said something to the effect of people need to spend 7 hours on your content across 4 different channels before people really find trust in the brand. And so if all you're doing is publishing short form 30-second, 45-second video pieces to TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn now, how many 30-second videos do you need for someone to reach 7 hours? Versus if you're creating long form video content on YouTube, podcasting, people are like listening. There's a YouTube app on TV now. Whenever I sit down on my couch, I pop the YouTube app on and I watch some of my favorite creators on there for an hour at a time. Or you're traveling to work, you got 45 minutes and you're putting on a podcast by your favorite creator. And so you're spending time with these people, and it's just the way that you would binge your favorite TV show. And by the end of the series, it's the series finale, and you feel sad that you're like losing a friend because they're going away. It's how you want people to feel after binging your content. They're waiting for the next video because they get so much value out of it. So to answer the question, long form video content become your own bingeable streaming network of content that people can consume. And instead of people finding your short form content and then opting into a lead magnet and then you just spamming them with emails and texts, direct them to your long form content. This is called nurturing the lead and allow them to spend more time with you. Allow them, they want to bring you into their home for a little, metaphorically for a little bit, and warm up to you, really understand who you are. And then they're going to be pre-sold by the time that, you're asking for a sale.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. I think people do crave that human connection, in a way. I think that someone is much more likely to trust you and use your service if they know you or they feel like they know you. Um, it's not like, especially with agency work, which are services, I think that you are like they're taking a risk by being involved in you. Like they're and I think that if they trust you or like you, so to speak, if they, think they know a little bit about you, based off of content or however you present yourself, um, I think that it makes sense that they would want to work with you more than if they didn't have that opportunity with another person, because it's not often that people will use an agency just based off of the website, um just based off of like the information presented to you, and that's it. I think they want to have a connection with the person that runs it, or like how they feel that they treat their employees. All these different things, like matter to people other than just the services that they provide.
Well, most of the time, agencies, coaches, consultants, they rely on referrals, and that referral removes all of that time frame of the time that you need to spend with a person before they trust you, because the referral is basically saying, if you trust me, in my opinion, then you'll trust this person because I'm referring them to you. So referrals great for that reason, but you can't live your entire business or your entire paycheck can't be dependent on waiting for the next referral to come through.
Hmm.
So this is a way to basically create that referral system in a way where you're duplicating yourself into video content, um, and you're selling people, or you're building that trust over time, um, and to eventually they get the same feeling as if one of the people that they trust is referring you to them. So it's a longer sales cycle, if you will, because referrals are much easier to close for that reason. But it is like little mini referral agents or sales agents kind of working for you while you sleep.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that trust is one of the biggest things when going to use any service, or trusting them with taking care of something that you could maybe hire someone in-house to do. Um, and I definitely agree that the way you present yourself, is going to convince them before any cold emailing will. So yeah, I think that that is a incredible point to end on, because we didn't stop for today. I'm so sorry. I hate cutting conversation short, but I have to.
You're good. You're good. This will be a cliffhanger. We'll get a part two or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, we can I'll title it something really clickbaity, and then I'll put some kind of Finn question mark at the end.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Right. Yeah, yeah. It's your business could be failing because of this one reason.
Oh yeah, I love those. But thank you again so much for joining me today. I think I learned a lot. I hope that our audience learns a lot. And yeah, it was a valuable time with you today. So thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. This is a great podcast. I mean, anything Philly related, I'm automatically on board. And again, go birds. Where hopefully this ages well by the time this comes out.
It's funny too, because like we usually ask Philly based questions at the end, but we were talking so much. I was like, "Hey, we don't have to include that in this video."
Okay, send me a list. I'll put a post out of my favorite things around Philly.
All right, good, because I do get my best restaurant recommendations from this
Mm.
podcast. So yeah. But thank you again so much. Thank you everyone listening and or watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to learn more things. And those typical things. Thank you so much and have a lovely day.